Cashiers of Reddit, do you judge us on the things we buy? What are some of the weirdest combinations you've seen on the conveyor? Circa 1992. I had an approx 50-year-old lady come into the Kroger where I worked in Georgia and buy condoms, tampons, a Cosmopolitan, beer, kitty litter, and those birthday cake candles that don't blow out when you blow on them. I joked. Big night. Huh. She responded. And people didn't really drop the F-bomb in suburban Atlanta back then. You have no F-king idea. Honey. Double quote. I blushed. A crackhead came into my workplace once and tried to pay for a shopping cart. Credits to him for offering to pay for something everyone steals, I guess. I'm not a cashier anymore. But when I was there were some interesting interactions. The one that comes to mind is a guy came in drunk and tried to buy a single carrot. He must have gotten hungry while waiting in line because he took a massive bite out of it. Then he didn't understand that we sold them by weight and we were trying to figure out how to charge him for it when half of it was in his stomach. I used to buy tea from Walmart in weird combinations just for something to do. My favorite was a gallon of mayonnaise, a 36 pack of flavored condoms, the biggest zucchini I could find, lube, whipped cream, and yeast infection cream. The cashier looked at me like she was disgusted, but couldn't hold in her curiosity. She asked me why I bought these particular items and I told her I was going to talk to a man about buying a horse. It's the only time I've heard someone say bruh as their only response to something. I used everything I bought except the mayo, which I gave to my mayo loving father for his birthday. One night at 2 AM. At the late night market I bought a giant English cucumber, a jar of Vaseline, a copy of Plumpers and Fat Chicks magazine, 2 bags of M&Ms and some beef jerky. The cashier snorted when he saw the magazine, but otherwise didn't bat an eye. I then proceeded to stash the items in an unused dresser drawer in the corporate apartment my friend was staying in for the week, along with about a dozen stripper posters we'd picked up earlier that night, all autographed to him. I worked as a cashier at a restaurant and we had a regular. We called her Sour Cream Lady because every time she came in she would order 11 sides of sour cream with her food. Her face would always flush but no matter what she always got her 11 sides of sour cream. I totally judged. I used to be one of those guys terrified to buy condoms. Like the cashier was going to say something or somehow judge me. Eventually I realized most people are just trying to get through a day and don't give a fuck. And that I shouldn't be ashamed or afraid for having protected sex. That being said, I still avoid any elderly looking female cashiers when buying sex related stuff. Like 2 years ago I worked in retail for the first time ever. I sold millions of condoms, toys, and sexual items. I never remembered any of the people or gave any items any thought. I just kept zoned out and did the usual greet scotch tea and thanked people for coming. Other than having to open the anti-theft devices on these items they were just another purchase like any. But the one lady I'll never forget was one buying a bunch of house stuff. At self-checkout and a vibrator had an anti-theft case on it. So I had to go. She said she needed help and had some random item on top of it. When I grabbed it and told her no problem, she screamed a loud high-pitched eeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeeee a year since that day and I can still see her embarrassed face in my head. When I used to bag groceries, I was mentally calculating what items would go with what in terms of shape, size, frozen or refrigerated items, non-food items, toxic non-food items, like cleaning products, and so forth. One day I noticed someone had purchased a personal lubricant product. I thought to myself, I wonder how long we've been selling this stuff. I've probably been mistaking it for toothpaste. I didn't really have time to pass judgment on people or imagine what they were doing with what they bought. It was all just stuff that had to go in bags. Some stores in the area where I grew up kept the condoms behind the counter due to theft. It's hard to buy them the first time when you don't know what you're doing, haha. Like, mom, can you recommend a brand for me to try? Double quote. I took a friend in their 40s to buy condoms for the first time ever a couple of years ago. Folks, teach your kids not to be ashamed to buy condoms. I was in the pharmacy once and there were two dudes in the condom section talking to each other. After a while it became clear it was an older brother or uncle helping this teenager to have a safe experience with his partner for the first time. And it warmed my heart. I did not do what I wanted to do and say good job guys because I figured that would be tactless. When Kmart went out of business they marked stuff down 50%. I bought a shitload of Depends for my elderly relative. As luck would have it, they still had dozens of boxes of enemas. Husband uses them to orally hydrate calves. I can only imagine what other shoppers and the cashiers were thinking. This was a while ago, which will become obvious shortly, but when I was a young checker at a grocery store a dude comes through my line at around 5:30 PM on a Friday night. He's wearing a cheap 3-piece suit and I get the vibe that he's going on a date night with someone. The items on the belt: 4 bottles of red wine, box of Trojans, bottle of KY jelly and a blank VHS tape. I mean, maybe the blank VHS tape had absolutely nothing to do with the other items. But also maybe SX tape. Edit. No. I didn't judge him. If anything I was jealous. He was about to have a better Friday night than I was. I have never judged someone for what they bought. Only on how they behave as a customer. Always be polite. If you don't want an item, give it to an employee instead of leaving it in a random spot. And you better have a good reason for asking for a manager because I am the manager and I don't have time for your nonsense. Also, if you're being rude to my staff you will not get what you want. Was a cashier for 3 years. I don't give a shit what you buy. Just please don't say the it must be free. Then. Joke. I die a little every time I hear that. I'm not going to judge you on your items. I'll judge you if you're being a DCK during the transaction. I worked at a hardware and garden store years ago. And someone must have FD something up in the computers. Because none of the new stock would scan one day. After half a shift of that joke from every third customer. One guy trying to buy an iron garden trellis. Would not stop. Kept repeating it. Like the 5th time would make it funny. Even his wife looked appalled. Finally I looked him dead in the eye, and probably looking dead myself. I told him, "Do you have any idea how many times today I have heard that?" Double quote. That goodness he shut up after that. Anyways. Back on topic. I only cared if there was something in a box that clearly wasn't supposed to be there. I was a cashier years ago. And as I was ringing through a cart full, I picked up a bottle of warming lube. The label was wrinkled on the barcode so I took some time to smooth it out so it would scan and the guy thought I was examining it or something. And said in a raw wink wink kind of voice, "It's for her." And pointed at the lady with him. A KII. Thanks for the clarification. Thought you were gonna spread it on toast. Dead serious. This was before I was a cashier but I was behind a guy at the register of a sporting goods store and he bought duct tape, rope, a knife, and a gun. As he was checking out he asked the lady at the register, "Do you guys carry body bags?" I kid you not. He asked for body bags. I was like 10 at the time and terrified. I later realized it was a sporting goods store and he probably wanted them for like deer or something, but still. My sister used to work at a flower shop. It wasn't unusual to get husbands who had done something stupid coming in to buy flowers to try to make things right. One day my sister had a guy come in visibly shaken up. She helped him and told him she hoped everything worked out for him. He said thanks and she'd hear about it if it didn't. She thought he meant he'd be back for more flowers. Nope. He was on the news the next day for killing his wife. Worked at Whole Foods for 3 years. I almost never paid attention to someone's cart, blew it. One day a woman purchased like 14 varieties of coffee and felt the need to tell me she was doing trial and error to determine the best coffee enema. Could have just been a joke, but given the usual WFM customer, I'm inclined to take her at her word. So I had to Google if coffee enemas are actually a thing. I've heard of them in stores and TV, but never checked if they're a real thing people do. They are. There have been cases of people getting rectal burns from them, and infections from improper sterilization. The whole thing sounds terrible. Presumably I get judged for the massive amount of pop I buy. Except I'm not fat. So maybe not. I'm actually getting it on behalf of a dying relative who just loves the stuff. And I figure why not? He won't live long enough to get diabetes or for his teeth to rot. Double quote. My grandfather wasn't allowed to have certain foods while he was on hospice. His doctors thought it'd make his condition worse. He was on his deathbed and just wanted some peanut butter crackers and Kit Kats. We got him an absurd amount of those and hid them in his bedside drawer so his hospice nurses wouldn't see it. He'd share his stash with us and it was a nice thing to bond over. I remember it all fondly. At my first job, Taco Bell, I definitely judged the people ordering 3 chili cheese burritos every day. That tea was made from yesterday's already questionable ground beef. I don't know why, but there was a lot of people who'd get 3 every day. On some level, you've got to love yourself more than that. I had Taco Bell like a week and a half ago after surgery. I was super high and my stepfather told me he'd take me to get food wherever I wanted on the way home. I hadn't eaten in 20 hours at that point, and my brain decided on the worst food for my body. Taco Bell and Krispy Kreme. It was also goddamn delicious. We got like 3 dozen various kinds of donuts and they lasted about 4 days. The raspberry jelly ones with vampire face frosting were the best because they tasted great and were adorable. No, I don't judge. Small town checker here. A while ago. But with customers I was friendly with, I would try to guess what they were cooking based on the ingredients on my belt. It was fun. I only did it with people I was friendly with. Not a combination, but a regular at my store comes in every week to buy half a dozen gallon jars of mayo. Yes. They make gallon jars of mayo. Yes. 6 of them. Yes. Every week. No. I don't know why. Running a charity? When I was a young cashier we had a guy come in on Saturday nights and he always bought 12-15 loaves of bread. Nothing else. About a year goes by before someone made a comment to him. Turns out he was a youth pastor and the teen group made sandwiches to hand out to homeless in the city on Saturday nights. They received donations on meat and canned goods for the bags, but they bought the bread fresh. When we found out, our manager hooked him up with the contact info for our bread companies. He eventually stopped coming in, and we found out from one of our bread vendors that they were now donating product to the group. I judge people for how they act, but generally never judge anyone for their purchases. The exception might be a lady who had 3 credit cards decline before the 4th one went through on her $10 bottle of wine. I just feel that wine might not have been my own priority in that sort of financial situation. Honestly, I barely pay attention. Careful now, someone tried to hand me a counterfeit $50 today. I couldn't see President Grant's face in the watermark, and that special marker came up black. Hi. Let me have one of those porno magazines. Large box of condoms. A bottle of Old Harper. A couple of those panty shields and some illegal fireworks and one of those disposable enemas. Nah. Make it 2. The only time I've wondered about people is when their total comes to $6. 66 so they go grab something else. Worked at a gas station. I manage a gas station. For a while. A pack of Marlboros came to $6. 66 after tax. The penny candy jar by the register had record sales until Marlboros went up again. This one evening, these 2 college-age girls came through my lane, buying chocolates, condoms, and peanut butter. They both were dressed like they were going out clubbing, and neither of them looked happy. Former cashier. I never really judged anyone on what they bought, but the one that will stick with me is $38 1 pregnancy tests. The customer said it's bad when you can't trust your daughter. I didn't even know how to respond. I asked a woman who regularly bought all of our cream cheese, 10-2300 grams packs at a time. What she's using the cream cheese for once. Wasn't judging or anything. Just curious. Turns out her family just seems to eat a lot of bread. Used to work in retail. I wasn't a cashier but did backup cashiering sometimes. Honestly, I don't even have time to judge customers on their purchases and there are way too many to keep track of them. So unless you're buying something truly unusual, I'm not gonna remember you at all. Speaking of truly unusual, though, I once had a customer buy like $80 worth of gummy vitamins. That was all he wanted. I don't know what his plans were but I was certainly curious. Not a cashier anymore. I very rarely judged what anyone bought. Most of the time I liked seeing what other people bought because it inspired me to try new things. I had some memorable customers that I still remember, like the very drunk French family who bought 10 pregnancy tests. Out of multiple years working at 3 different grocery stores, the only one I ever truly judged was a guy I called Custard Man. Custard Man was about 500 pounds. Always sweaty. And smelled like he'd never showered in his life. He came in every single day and bought a variety of things, but his daily grocery shop always included at least 5 packets of instant custard. Every day. The only thing I recall thinking was of any note during my tenure as a cashier was an attractive young couple who bought 2 things. And 2 things only. Carpet cleaner. And a Fleet's enema. Was a drugstore cashier and saw lots of strange combinations. I don't remember the people. Just the things they bought. The worst was the guy buying lots of preparation H and peanuts. He couldn't wait to get to the register before chomping away on those things. I just hope he chewed really well. Then there was this one guy bought the store out of lube and even got kicked out of the store for arguing with the manager over whether or not we had more in the back. Generally I didn't pay much attention when I cashiered. I did have people buying drink mixes for cocktails, soda, and steaks for a party with their food stamps. I likely wouldn't have paid any attention then, except that they were oddly bragging loudly that that was what it was for. As if anyone cared. So yeah, then I judged. The cashier at Walmart did give me a funny look when I purchased a box of diapers, a bottle of Flintstones vitamins, wrinkle cream and a box of Estroven. I noticed and told her yes. I know it's weird, but I'm a premenopausal 40-something-year-old mom of toddler twins and a baby. Double quote. Spent many years as a cashier and never saw anything as weird as the one time I was the customer and just happened to need Vaseline and some bungee cords. I once purchased car sealant for a leaky moonroof, a lighter, and a bra. Nice cashier. No problem. I chose electronic receipt. Save paper and all. I had used a friend's rewards phone number though. She called when I got to the parking lot asking about it because of the emailed receipt. Judge? No. Notice? Yes. I worked in a grocery store during high school and college. I could almost tell you what people would have in their carts before they walked up. It's been 20 years. And I still remember some of Yale. Close bracket. I used to work at Walgreens and would generally just pretend I didn't notice what people had in their basket. Most people are embarrassed about private things or anticipating you being embarrassed. If you show them you're calm and relaxed, they usually relax. I'm so zombied out from doing the same thing for hours that if someone came up with a cucumber and condoms I wouldn't put 2 and 2 together.